Okay, all right. So this is how we can specify the hyperlink and it will become a clickable link. Now in href, it can have a path to a page locally. That means within the project or from the same website, or it can be pointing to some remote URL. Like here, in this case, I have given a full URL for a portal, which is hw3schools.com. Let me take an example. Let me create one example. So I will start with a fresh page and let me save it. So I do it like5.html. Okay. And then I create an anchor tag. Pretty simple. I do a. Remember, whenever you are going to have a closing tag necessary, you should put it right away. And I'm saying Google, or I say go to Google. Okay. And then I have a href, and which says https://google.com. Okay, this is the URL of google.com, right? And let me browse the page. This is the example, and this is the page that appears. Pretty simple, but here this is now clickable. This is a link, and when I click on this, you can notice at the bottom of the screen it is saying https://google.com, and I click it, and hopefully it will go to Google, and it went to Google. I go back and I click it again, it will take me to google.com. So anchors are useful for navigation. Now navigation, as I said, can be done within the application or outside the application. So let me take a look, and again I have many other pages here, right? So go to example 4, for example. So I say go to example number 4, and URL for that is what? Which is a relative ex minus 4 minus 4.html, right? So let us see what happens now. I navigate to this page. One second, it is flickering too much. Okay, I go to this page and I click on this, go to example 4. Now you can see the URL. What is appearing at the bottom? If you notice, it says some file with which ends with ex minus 4 minus 4. And let us see where it takes us. This is the page that we were creating earlier, right? So I can navigate from one place to another place on the same machine or a different machine, or in fact on different sections or portions of the page itself. If there are some portions which are not visible and I want to bring that up in the visible area automatically, like it's an auto scroll, we can do that. And we are actually doing that in the example that we had earlier. So in this example, what is happening? When I click on any of these links, these are anchors, and I click on say hobbies, suddenly hobbies will appear. And I click on home, it goes back to the top. When I click on professional experience, it brings it here, right? And this is what we can create easily. And remember, this is the same page. It's the same page. I scroll up and down and I can go to that section, or by just clicking on this link, it brings that portion in the visible area, right? So let us go back to the slide deck and then we'll see how it works in a better way, like how we can create bookmarks, etc. Okay, so link allows you to jump to another document, and when you move the mouse over the link, the mouse arrow will turn into a little hand, right? You observe that, and that indicates that it is clickable. The small hand, a little hand with the finger pointing to the link, indicates that it is clickable. Okay. And that's pretty much on the hyperlink. There are some more properties. We will take a look at that, and there is some styling that is possible on hyperlink. We will see that in coming minutes. The next thing is listing. Listing begins with an unordered list. So you know, you might have been using the bulleted points like we have here, 2 bulleted points. So if I have to create this kind of appearance on HTML, we have a choice. We can use UL tag, and then UL tag will have more than one or more li tags, and li tags will be actually having the text that I want to show, or basically any content. It may be a text, it may be images, or it may be anything. So LIs can contain anything, and then it creates a bulleted unordered listing. Why it is called unordered? Because it will not put up a serial like 1 2 3 4 or ABCD or things like that. If we have to create such listing, which we call ordered list, the tag for that will be OL. Instead of UL, we will be using OL. We'll come to that. So let's take a situation here. I want to show something like this: coffee, tea, milk, with a bullet in front of these. This is how I will create it in HTML. I put UL tag, and inside UL I put 1 li for coffee, 1 li for tea, and 1 li for milk. UL stands for unordered list, LI stands for list item, and this is how you will remember. So list item, when it is placed inside UL, it will be appearing like a bulleted point list item. Okay, if I have to create an ordered list, as I said earlier, instead of UL, you will use OL tag, ordered list tag. And if I have to have appearance like this, 1 2 3, I will simply put the same list items but wrapped inside OL tag. By default, OL will apply this ordering, numeric ordering of 1 2 3. Now there is a way to change that. Suppose I want to specify ABCD or Roman letters or small letter ABCD, we have a choice. So we'll do that in coming slides. Let's take a look back on the links and how we can style it. So by default, a link appears like this in all browsers. An unvisited link, a link which is not yet clicked, will appear underlined and blue. So let us go back to our page example, and I load it, and it appears like a blue underlined link. Fine. A widgeted link is underlined and purple. That means the color will change, and it is making it different. So if you have widgeted one link and you came back to the page, or you are on the same page but you have already clicked on that link, then the color will change from blue to purple. And if there is an active link, that is underlined and then red. So when something is already visited and it is marked as active, then it will be red in color. So underline means, but the color will change to indicate something, right? So I go back to this actually. So let me refresh the page. Everything is blue. When I click on this hobby, when it was active briefly, it made it appear like a red color, if you can notice, right? When it is active, when I have pressed the mouse, this is active, the color is red, and then it goes back to normal. So it is all purple right now, right? It's not blue. Okay, all right. What is important for us to know is that we can change these colors as per our choice, and we can also say, well, no underlining, all we can do using styling. And how do we do that? So we can change the default colors by using CSS pseudo classes. Now this is something very different from whatever we have used so far. We have used style properties, but we have not used classes in CSS. Now in CSS, you can define some reusable definitions. Definitions of what? You define a bunch of style properties and give it a name. Name could be XYZ, ABCD, whatever. So it is doing what? It is creating a packet of style definitions, and that is called class. There is a way to define that. There is a way to name it. We will take a look at that in the coming classes. I'm not complicating it, but there is a way, and then you can use that name in multiple elements. Now, when you have to use them in elements, you can't use it as a style property, but there is another property attached with all elements called class property. So you can specify the class, and then it will be becoming reusable. So one definition at one place, and it can be used at multiple places just by putting the name. You don't have to repeat the entire definition, right? That will make our CSS creation and maintenance much easier. But we will take a look at that maybe tomorrow. Today, what we have to know is there are some pseudo classes predefined. Pseudo classes are like classes, but it is virtual, it is pseudo. And some of them are link, widgeted, hover, active. There are more pseudo classes, but these are important for us in terms of anchor tag. And how do we differentiate in the notations? If the class name begins with a colon, so in front of the class name you will have colon. We'll take a look at that, as I'm repeatedly saying, in our coming classes when we make it reusable. But I'll just show you the example here. If I define something like this as reusable style definitions, if I say colon link for a tag, so this is how we will read. For every a tag, if this is the situation for us, for a particular state of anchor link, these are the colors. So I say background color transparent, foreground color green, which was said default will be blue, right? I'm saying it green. And text decoration, if you can recall, text decoration was used to place the horizontal line, underline, overline, and strike through, right? Deleted. So it will appear like deleted. And you say none, that means no text decoration, no horizontal lining around the text, above, below, or in the middle, right? So no underlining. So text decoration can be removed. You want to remove that, you want to specify certain color for foreground, background, and everything. You can do that for certain state of link, when it is a regular link, when it is a widgeted link, when hover is happening. Hover means when you are moving the mouse over the hyperlink. Okay, when you are hovering, or putting the mouse and leaving it there, that state is called hover. And active is when you have clicked it, or you are saying that this link is active. Active is a property of link which you can set dynamically, and then it will have a different color. All right, so all of these are based on the states of anchor tag, and you can also link it to some other class, and it can be very, very reusable, and we will learn that tomorrow. Okay, so by using or by specifying different values of color, background color, and decoration of the text, you can have different or non-default appearance of the link. Okay, that will be quite useful in some situations. So we will see in our pages or in other websites, you can always observe that it will not look like a clickable link, but it is actually a link behind the scene. Okay. So we have a list of pseudo classes. What is pseudo classes? We have seen 4 examples. We will take a look at that in practice later when we will start creating reusable CSS styles or style definitions. But for the time being, let's take a quick look at the pseudo classes. It is used to define what? Special state of an element. It's a special state or situation of an element. Like when I am hovering over the element, when I am having the element as active, right? So there are plenty of such pseudo classes available. And some of them we will use, some of them we may not use. We will use few of them quite a number of time. Okay. So let's not worry about this today. We will take a look at this again as we make more rich web pages. Okay. All right. Similarly, we have something called pseudo element. It is just for knowledge, right? It's not to be understood in full detail. Once we start using it, we will understand it in greater depth. So similar to pseudo classes, we have pseudo elements. And what is that for? It is used to style specific parts or portions of an element. For example, when we are creating the paragraph, and I say the first letter of paragraph should be of this font size, which is appearing, say, larger than the rest. Okay, that is quite common use case. Or I say first line of the paragraph should be appearing different than the rest. Or when I do a selection, then it should appear differently. When I do a selection, say it has a background color set, and the background color by default could be gray or blue. You can control that, or you can change the font also. So whatever you want to do on a portion of an element, not about the state, but on a section or part of the element, then you will be using pseudo elements. And how do you differentiate between pseudo element and pseudo class? In pseudo class, you will have double colon before the name, while in pseudo element you had a single colon. Okay, if it is not going into your head, no problem. We will take a look at this again in future classes. This is just FYI for now. All right, let's now try to create bookmarks using anchors, and that is what we have used. I'm just showing you how to create bookmarks within the page. So it's like anchors within the page or bookmarks within the page, which can be navigable, or you can navigate to a specific portion directly on the page. So to create a bookmark, you have to use ID property. ID indicates what? Identifier. So each element can be provided with a unique identifier value. So it is like a unique name given to an element. Okay. So every HTML element supports ID attribute, and we have to specify a unique value for an element first of all. Okay. So for example, I'm having a h2 tag, and I said h2 tag ID is C4. That is like a unique identifier for this particular heading. Fine. Then what we want to do is I create a link somewhere, and I say when I click onto this link, jump to the h2 where the ID is C4, or jump to any element whose ID is C4. Remember, ID has to be unique across all elements in the page, because it has to identify uniquely. If you reuse the same value or put the same value to more than one element, the system will get confused and it will start picking things first come first serve. So whichever element will have that ID value first will be considered. So never ever duplicate the ID or the value of ID. Okay. So if I want to jump to a particular section of the page, what I do in the anchors href, I put a hash and then the ID of that element, hash and this. So if I'm on the same page, I can simply put hash and this, which means on the same page, on the current page, go to this element. Fine. But if I want to go to a specific portion of a second page, I can also do that by putting the whole URL and then hash and then the ID of that section. So it will load the second page, like in this case HTML demo.html, and then it will also scroll to the section which has identifier C4, and that will be at the top of the screen. Okay, so it will become it will come into the visible area. If it is not in the visible area already, that will come into the visible area, and this is quite useful, right? So I had that example earlier, and because it is a working example for us, we can go back to that and see it working. So this was the example that we had with all of these. Now let me open the source code of this once again and see it carefully. So I have ID set on multiple H tags. I can put ID on any of the elements which are like bookmarks for us. So I said H1 ID top, this H3 ID PI. Similarly, each of these have a unique ID value specified. Fine. Now what I did, I created an unordered list first of all. So you know UL will create an unordered list, and then I have LIs. So I have 1 LIs, 2 LI, and 3, 4, 5. 5 LIs are put up. So it will do what? It will create these entries here. Now each LI has a anchor tag. So anchor will do what? It will create a clickable link, hyperlink. Fine. Now for each anchor, I have some text, and that is appearing with an underline and a color by default. I could have changed that by applying pseudo classes for that anchor, but I'm not doing that for now. We'll do it later, maybe tomorrow. Okay. What is special here is in the href, I am now putting a value which begins with hash, and after hash, I have a value which matches with the ID of one of the elements. So when I say hash top, that means if I click on this home link, it will take me to the section or the element which is having ID top. Okay, and if it is not in the visible area, it will appear. So let's do that. So by default, it is this. Okay, now I click on professional experience, and if you can see at the bottom, take a note at bottom, it is adding hash PE to the same page. Okay, so and professional experience thing is here, but it is not visible by default. Now I want to do what? I click on this, and that becomes visible. So it comes at the top of the visible section. Now I want to go back to the home. So I click on home, and home will appear now. So this is like automatic scrolling within the page. When I have a very lengthy page, I can create navigations like this, and then I can jump from one section to another section. And if I want, I can start with that directly. So in the browser, if I say HTML, the whole URL, and then hash and then PE, it will load the page and it will automatically scroll to PE. You see, it did not show me the home thing or the first header, but it directly jumped to the PE section, or it brought the PE section at the in the visible area, right? Because it is bookmarks. So bookmarks help you create unique URLs or unique identifiers for a specific portion of your page, and that is very, very interesting, right? Okay, so that is a very useful feature of anchor. Okay, but it works only with the ID attribute set properly, and remember, ID should have a unique value in the entire page. All right, so that is about styling the links. Now let's go back and start styling the lists that we have created. We have created a list and we want to style it. So what is the default behavior of list? Say I have created an unordered list. The list items will have a small circle, darkened circle at the start as the bullet. Okay. Now I want to change that. I want to change. Basically, that is what we can change. So I want to change the list style type. That's a property. That's a CSS property which is available to specify what type of list item marker you want to use. Okay. The default one is disk. Disk is like a filled circle, a darkened circle, which is a bullet. That is default. But I want to change it to say circle, square, or I don't want to have that. Now let's take a look again on our page. These are links simply, and these dots are not making sense for me, right? So what I will do, I would prefer specifying a style and which says list style type. Okay, and here I will say none colon, right? Colon none, and then I will come back to the page and refresh, and I will see what. So these bullets are now gone. So it does not look like a bulleted list, but internally it is still a bulleted list. Huh? Yeah, we can put up various other things, like I want to have a color on each li. All other options like color and background color and sizing and border is applicable to UL, it is applicable to li. So instead of none, I want to say this, which is the default. I want to say square. Okay, and I can see that as a square. Fine, pretty simple and easy. Interesting thing is I can use icons, I can use images also like a bullet. And let me try to create or find a small image that I can use, a small image for bullet. And I will use that, say this is actual bullet. let's try to use it. Okay, so let me save this image. Okay, and lab work day 4, and I say bullet.jpg. Fine, and I will edit that for the time being. I will try to edit it so that it changes the orientation at least and becomes smaller, because it will be too large for us. So I will do a little editing. In fact, I will make it smaller. Okay. Okay, and then I will rotate it as well. So rotate it this way. Fine. All right. So I save it. All right. Bullet.jpg. Now, how will I put this as the list item? Is there an option? So let's go back and see. The second option for that is list style image. So instead of list style type, I can say use this as the marker, list style image. So let's use that. So instead of list style type, I said image, and I can specify the path, or the easier way is to use this function called URL, and then inside URL I put the name of the file or the URL of the image file. For us it is bullet.jpg and it is in the same folder, so it will work. Okay, let's come back to the page and see how it appears. I will close the extra things, and here you go. You see, this is how it is appearing, but it is of course too big for the screen, and that is why it is showing pretty ugly. So we can reduce the size, and we can reduce the size, say we reduce it to say 20% of its original, and it becomes smaller, and then I refresh the page and it will become smaller, right? And this looks better, right? So I can use pretty much anything as my list item marker by either specifying the ready-made list style types, but when I have the capacity of using list style image, that gives me the whole world's option. I can use pretty much anything and everything to indicate the list items, right? This is so powerful. Okay, so I can use list style image for that. Then I can also choose where to position the list item. By default, it will be placed inside the UL, right? It's a little indented inward, but I can say I don't want it to be positioned inside, so I can say outside, and then the indentation will not appear and it can be placed outside. So let's try it. So what will I do? So I will use list style position, list style position, and what's the value for that? Outside. So let's try outside and see if it works differently. I don't remember the actual value, so let's search for that. List style position. Position. Okay.
Outside not working.
Position will have a value, and outside and inside. Yeah, value was correct. Outside. And it should have worked.
For some computers, it is showing it is not working.
Okay, so it's okay. Let's not worry about that because we will rarely use this position property. All right, let's not worry. Okay, let's come back. So we can also put all of them together in one single style property called list style, and then everything will work for us. Similarly, I have some styling possible on OL tag, but here the styling is not done using the list style type because it does not matter. You will always have an ordering and you cannot repeat the same style. You have to have a sequence. So for that, there is a property, there is a HTML property associated with OL, which is called type, and then types. There are multiple types possible. The default type is numbers. So if you specify type 1, then it will take that 1 and like that. Otherwise, you can use capital A for capital letters or uppercase letters, A small letter for small letters, and Roman letters I and I. Okay, these are the default and other options available for an ordered list typing. All right, so this is quite useful. In some situation, you will have ordered list, in some other situations, and most of the situation actually you will have unordered list. Cool. The last and most important, actually not most important, but one of the most used tag is tables. Here what you are going to do, you are going to create a two-dimensional representation of data. So you will have things in rows and columns. And how do you do that? Using 3 or 4 tags in combination. The topmost tag is table, and then table should have rows. So you have a table, which is like a big box, and then you have rows, and rows will have columns. So the second level element inside table will be table rows, or short form is TR. And then inside TR, you can have table cells or data, right? So for that, you can have multiple table data cells, and for that you are going to use TD tag. However, if you are going to specify something differently in the first row, which is like a heading row where you will generally have the column names specified, you can use TH tag instead of TD tag, because TH will do what? It will automatically put the text in boldface, right? It will make it thicker. It is like using B tag along the content. So content will look like this. So table, TR, and each TR has 3 elements. In the first row, it has TH, 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 and in the second and third row, it has TD, TD, TD. All right, and it will build a table. It's a 2-dimensional table. We can use that and we can prepare it. I'm not going to do the examples today because we will be doing the examples tomorrow on tables. Quickly going into some more features of table. Suppose in some cases you want to have merged cells, and merging of cells means more than one cell space used by one value. Now, if you have to merge cells in horizontal direction, then you will say, I'm going to use multiple columns, or I have the value which will span over multiple columns. So for that cell, you can specify certain value for a field called span, or you will set call span attribute and you will say more than one. Then it will be representative of more than one column's value, and then subsequent columns or cells will be created. If you have to merge vertically, like across multiple rows, then you can say row span. So my value should be spanned over multiple rows like this. And this is how you can create a table with a lot of merged cells horizontally as well as vertically, and that gives you whole extra control over the presentation. Of course, it comes with little extra work where you will have to have less number of TDs or THs created for other cells because there is no space available for them. We will take a look at those in practical situation when we will create the full page tomorrow. Okay. You can also put captions on the table. So you have a table, but you want to have a description of the table or a caption for the table. You can specify caption tag, and that will appear generally at the top, but you can also control where to let the caption appear. In addition to these, there are some optional elements, th, t-body, t-foot, which you can embed inside table, and then it creates subsections like table will have th, and then it will have a tr with multiple ths. So that creates the heading section. Then t-body will have the rest of the trs with tds, and then at the footer maybe you will put up a different styling for the footer section, which is like say indicating the total sum or something like that. So you can create those for different levels of styling. However, these are optional elements and you can directly embed tr into table, but th and td cannot be embedded directly into the table. It has to be part of one or the other tr tag. Okay, so that is on the tables. We can use all the styling features that we have learned so far on table, like bordering, coloring, background coloring, padding and margin and outline, and everything that we have learned on about styling, and of course position related things and display related things. So pretty much every style that we have learned so far is applicable to table, tr, and tds. So each you can go and apply can also use some of this to have something unique in your tables. And so table is one of the most used uh, element to represent or show a large amount of related data, and we will be going to use it quite often, and we will use that tomorrow in our examples. And you have some more properties like border, border collapse, caption side, empty cells. These are properties. These are properties which you can specify. These are CSS properties which you can specify on table. And for example, caption side will decide where to place the caption, at the top or at the bottom of the table, right? So these are quite useful things. Remember, I'm not going to do the examples today about tables. We'll do it together tomorrow when we will be creating a richer HTML page. That's it in the second session today. We learned about links, lists, and tables. We saw some examples about links and lists, and we saw the flexibility coming with lists with various styling options. We also used an image to create a table, a list item marker. We just went through the table. We did not do the example, and tomorrow we will do an extensive example of table. We also got introduced to something called pseudo class and pseudo element. However, because we don't know how to define classes in CSS, we could not do the examples. But never mind, tomorrow when we will create a lengthy complex page, we will see a requirement of creating reusable CSS definitions, and then we will focus on how to create reusable definitions and how to use them. Okay, and that is where we will again come back and look into pseudo elements and pseudo classes. So that is the end of today's session. If you have questions, I can answer those. Any question, guys? Okay, so if you have no question, I will just remind you, be ready with your web page example that you would want to create tomorrow. While I will be taking this example of creating a biodata web page, and I'll try to apply all the knowledge that we have gathered so far in this week onto that web page so that it looks nicer, and it will also seed our discussion for coming things, like I said, reusable CSS definitions and some dynamic content creation, and that is possible only using JavaScript. Say, I don't want to show everything on the page always. I want to show it only on demand. When I click, it should appear. So I want to control the display or visibility of a section. I want to do that only when I need it. That is possible using JavaScript. Okay, so tomorrow we are going to get into a proper web page creation, because we are now knowing all the basic ingredients of creating a web page. With your example, and as I show you example here, or the practice or application of knowledge on this biodata web page, you can practice the same things on your web page and work parallel with me, right? You have to do a lot of practice. If you're not doing practice, please start doing that, because without practice, you will forget everything that you have been learning so far. Unless you start applying, unless you start making mistakes by typing yourself, it is not going to remain with you. You don't have to actually remember everything. There are plenty of dictionaries available, and on internet you can always search for specific values, for specific element names. If you are making mistake, there will be intelligent editors available which will help you type the names correctly and get hints on the possible values too. So don't worry too much about remembering the names of tags and properties and their possible values. But if you are understanding that this is possible, you wanted to do something and you remember, yes, it was possible. For example, I wanted to create a rounded corner in the border. Yes, it is possible. And you forgot the name of the style. No problem. You can go and find it out by doing a little search. But if you don't remember that, and if you never tried that, it will be difficult for you to recall. So practice is very, very important. So keep practicing, spend an hour or so every day on experimenting with whatever you have learned on that day, and recall the things that you have learned earlier, because it is going to be a build up. Nothing is isolated. Everything when put together will make you feel great, and you will be able to see the actual value. So tomorrow what we are going to do, we are going to do this. We are going to put together text, image and color in one place and see how it gives us the best experience, of course, with the use of other CSS styling. One thing that we have not done so far is use of icons. Icons is pretty much equivalent to images, but there are some ready-made styling that gives you icons out of the box. So you can use images instead of icons, but there are certain ready-made APIs and integrations available which will give you the icons out of the box. So that we will take up later, maybe next week. Yes. But that is not the integral part of web pages. That's an optional thing which is quite commonly used these days. So integral part of HTML pages is text, image and coloring, and the other CSS styling about positioning and sizing and displaying and border and etc. Right? And this is all we are going to use tomorrow. Okay, so be prepared for tomorrow's interactive session. Tomorrow we will not have too much of slides. We will do things practically. So we will discuss on the fly what to do, what will work the best. So we will do code and fix. We will do some things, see if it is good. If it is not, we will apply some more. So we will do the design and development together, right? I would want you guys to be open and unmuted tomorrow throughout, so that you can have your opinion shared. Okay, be ready, be active in tomorrow's session. Tomorrow we are going to create our first complete web page. Okay, any question? All right, no problem. We will meet again tomorrow at 9 a.m. and thank you for being with me today.